رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين بالقاسم المصطفى محمد. ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Mu'mineen, mu'minat, brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman, Salamun alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Last night, we continued the topic of looking deeply, in a deeper way, at the concept of Tawheed, and specifically through the words and the eyes of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salatu wassalam. We talked about how he had emphasized Tawheed and all throughout his life, even on the battlefield to individuals. Last night, we tried to offer up a different perspective on the concept of Tawheed, whereas normally we translate it as Tawheed, as monotheism or as oneness of Allah, making it just a concept or a noun. We took just from the simple Arabic form and other things on that same pattern to see that Tawheed has to be performative. It has to be action-based. It's not just some idea that sits in our mind. Tawheed has to be lived. And we said rather than translating Tawheed as oneness or as monotheism, Tawheed is about performing wahda. It's about unifying things and bringing everything together. And specifically, it's trying to say and connect everything to Allah. How is everything a reflection of Allah's names? How is everything a reflection of Allah's will? How do I actually create that wahda that is an extension of Allah as al-wahid, al-ahad as well? Then we said, when a person is not performing Tawheed properly, the opposite of Tawheed is not shirk, it's takfir, right? Tawheed coming from wahda, meaning one or unity, and then Tawheed meaning unifying and bringing things together. And kathra, meaning multiple things or multiplicity. And takthir is to multiply things, it's multiplying. So the two features that stand in contrast and in opposition to each other are not Tawheed and shirk, but Tawheed and takthir. There are some who are trying to bring everything under Allah's light, to see it through His eyes, see it through His knowledge, through His ilm, through His nur. And there are others who try to separate everything from Allah, to try to create distinctions, to try to create more independent features in reality. And that's the focus on what we want to talk about tonight, inshallah ta'ala. And the way that we'll do this is to talk about how this initial concept, how it's been addressed in the Quran as well, although maybe we didn't see this story in that light. And it has to do with the story of the angels, Iblis, and Iblis's refusal to perform sujood to Nabi Adam alayhi salam. So let's begin, inshallah, after salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So first, although I'm sure everybody knows the story, we've heard it many times, it's one of the most retold stories in the Quran, right? The quote-unquote fall and mistake and sin of Iblis, his disobedience. It's in many different surahs. The same ideas are there in almost every surah where it's told, but certain surahs and certain ayat add a few details which are maybe more important for what we have to talk about. So, at least just for our topic, we'll focus on the way that the story is told from Surah Al-Hijr, Surah 15, starting from ayah number 28, for those who are interested in following along. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ. When your Rabb, right, Allah speaking to Rasulullah saying, when your Rabb had, remember when your Rabb had spoken to the angels, the Malaika, and he said what? إِنِّي خَالِقٌ بَشَرًا مِّن صَلْصَالٍ مِّن حَمَإٍ مَسْنُونٍ. That I'm going to create, or I'm creating a human being from a clay that is molded from this dark black mud. Ayah 29. فَإِذَا سَوَّيْتُهُ وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقْعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. So when I have finished proportioning him and fashioning him and making him equal in all his proportions, and I have breathed into him from my own ruh and spirit, Allah saying this, then fall down in sujood, right? Now to this. فَسَجَدَ الْمَلَائِكَةُ كُلُّهُمْ أَجْمَعُونَ. So all of the angels did sujood all together. All of them fell down. And this shouldn't be a surprise. Angels are they're robots pretty much, right? Although they're divinely created creatures of nur, fine. But at the same time, once they're programmed, they just do what they're told to do, right? And this is why we're told that we can be and we should be better than angels. Because angels, their ita'ah, their obedience is just pre-programmed. Whatever Allah tells them to do, they do it. That's it. There's no value in that necessarily. Us, we're programmed, we're told what to do, but we actually have a choice to obey or disobey. And when we disobey, we obviously are punished for that. And we're taken to task and held accountable. But when we decide to obey, then we are rewarded for that, right? But angels don't have such an idea. Illa Iblis. Now this is ayah 31. Illa Iblis. So all the angels now, they've all prostrated, they've all gone down to sujood. But now Iblis, who at this point is amongst the angels, right? And the whole lead up to this, we're going to leave out because it's not relevant to the story or for our topic tonight. So all of them, all the angels have done sujood, but Iblis obviously refuses. Aba an yakuna ma'as sajidin. He refused to do sujood with the others that were there. Interesting side note, for those who are interested in these kind of discussions. What type of creature is shaitan? Jinn, right? Interestingly, it's a minority opinion, but I'll just share with you just to keep in the back of your mind. If you look at the way that the Arabic is phrased in this ayah, and a few others are like this too, right? فَسَجَدَ الْمَلَائِكَ كُلُّهُمْ أَجْمَعُونَ. That all of the angels, they did sujood together, illa Iblis. The way that it's phrased in Arabic makes it sound like Iblis is an angel. And this is why there's a small minority of ulama that say, no, Iblis is actually not a jinn, he's an angel. Now that comes with its own discussion, and there's obviously rebuttals and objections made by many other ulama saying, how is this possible because of the continuation of the conversation. But those who are very strict when it comes to examining Quranic Arabic, they say, look, Allah phrased it like this for a reason, why would he say that? For those who are interested in, at least knowing different opinions, I'm not convincing you. I don't personally believe this, and our teachers didn't believe it. But for those who, want to be interested, that there are other opinions out there about the nature of shaitan. But again, humbly, I think it raises more questions than it does help things out. Because, if angels are just pre-programmed creations, how does he have the ability to go against that, right? But again, some have brought this point up. So Iblis does not do his sujood, right? Abba, right? He has this refusal in him. And then qala. Now the conversation takes place. Allah says, Ya Iblis, ma laka ala takuna ma'a sajidin. So what's the deal with you? What's going on? Why aren't you amongst those who have done sujood? Right? قال. So what does Iblis respond? لم أكن لأسجد لبشر خلقته من صلصال من حمأ مسنون. So he gives a reply. He said, it's not right for me. It's not befitting of me that I go down and I do sujood to some creature that you've made from this, just as you just said, Allah, you made it from this dark black mud. Why would I do sujood to something like that? It doesn't make sense to him, right? قال فاخرج منها فإنك رجيم. Right? So leave this place now. You are, you're cursed. You are expelled. You are damned for this. Now, in other ayat of the Quran, right? So this is the kind of larger part of the story. In other parts of the Quran, when he talks about his reason for doing so, he doesn't mention the creation here. In other parts of the Quran, when the story is mentioned, he says, what? Ana khayrun minhu. Right? So when Allah asks him, why didn't you prostrate? Why didn't you go down? He says, I am better than him. It's simple. This part, it's offering a bit more of the backstory, right? He's actually talking and giving his reasons that I'm not just saying that I'm better. I'm just saying that, look, he's made from clay and I'm made from fire. And very clearly, fire is better than clay. So what does this have to do with our concept of tawheed and how we're linking things together and takfir and all this? Let's explain a bit more. If you can recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now this story, obviously, Many ulama have retold the story, they've derived lessons, they've tried to get people to understand the mistake, the sin, the ma'asiyah of shaitan, advising us to be careful, don't do the same thing. And what typically do most ulama, most mufassirin, how do they describe this whole episode, right? Without going into all the details. They said, look, what shaitan did, his mistake, his problem was, they say, either ta'assub or asabiyah, or if they want to translate it into modern day language, they say shaitan was being racist. That's the language that has been used, right? By many speakers that I've heard myself too. So shaitan was being racist, right? It was arrogance, sure, but arrogance that expressed itself in form of racism. Now, look, I understand why somebody would want to frame it like that, right? We have this notion now where speakers or individuals, we want to take stories and lessons from the Quran, from Islamic history, and we want to try to attach it to modern day issues, which is understandable, sure. But instead of sometimes what we should be doing is saying, okay, there's an issue happening here, let me go find an equivalent in the past and take some lessons there. What we end up doing is taking modern day problems, sometimes even solutions, we take what's happening in the modern world, we back project it and force feed it into the Quran and onto the stories of the Ahlul Bayt and their history. You know, this idea, racism obviously existed back then, right? In the time of Rasulullah and the Ahlul Bayt. It was obviously there. Nobody denies that, right? Rasulullah had to speak about it constantly. That's there, no problem. It still exists in our community. Unfortunately, it's there. We know that, right? But to say that shaitan was being racist and to use the same meaning that you and I would understand in this modern context seems a bit strange. We're not talking about races over here, right? That's not the issue that's at hand. He's not there claiming that jinn as a whole are better than all things made from clay. That's not what he's trying to claim over here, right? He's not standing there with a banner like jinn lives matter, right? That's not what he's doing. So we have to be careful sometimes of taking ideas and throwing it back onto like that was the problem there. What is actually happening over here? Now, this mistake that's being made, rather than me give you the answer, I want to backtrack a little bit too. Because when we think about the problems that have been mentioned and addressed in the Quran, obviously Allah mentions the stories of the prophets, He mentions the problems that the people had, their issues, the spiritual diseases, and then offers us advice to make sure we don't have them and to cure them, right? That's the typical Quranic format and template, that's there. If we were trying to figure out what exactly is happening in the story, it's helpful to realize that this same exact issue happened before Iblis. Iblis wasn't the first creation to do something like this. Now, if we are thinking in terms of, let's call it the Quran, in terms of time, temporality, right? We don't really think in terms of chronological stories. All right, we start with like maybe Nabi Adam and we go forward. But technically, the story of Iblis comes before Nabi Adam, right? He's before Nabi Adam. Now, if we were to go before Iblis, chronologically, in the Quran, there is a first story that's actually mentioned. What is the actual first story mentioned in the Quran which is describing a mistake that's being made by some creations? Anybody know? Anybody have any guesses? It's related to this story. It's happening right before this story. Ahsantum. So it's when Allah is speaking with the angels. The angels were the first one to make the same exact mistake. Let me explain a bit more. Let's go through the ayat. If you can recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So this, again, told many different places. Let's focus on the first time that it shows up, at least in the typical compilation of the Quran that we have now. Surah Baqarah, ayah 30. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ. So far, starting off the same way as pretty much every other story about Iblis and stuff, right? That Allah is reminding, hey, remember what your Rabb, your nurturer, your caretaker had said to the angels. إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. So over here, it's talking about that, not a creation of a human, but I'm going to place a Khalifa, right, on the earth. قَالُوا. So the angels now respond. Not about Iblis, it's about the angels. They say what? أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ. Are you going to place in this earth of yours, this physical place, are you going to create and make this creation your khalifa that does what? مَن يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا, that they are going to perform fasad. They're going to cause chaos. وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاء, they're going to spill blood. They're going to cause bloodshed. They're going to be violent. And technically, for being very specific with the Arabic, it's not speaking in the future tense, it's speaking in the present tense, that this is what they do. Which, again, that's another side conversation, maybe for another time. And then it's not just them complaining. They're not just calling out or questioning Allah, whatever way we want to frame it, of why would you make them your khalifa when this is what they're going to do? They're obviously going to be solution-oriented. Now, don't just mention the problem, mention a solution, so they do. They say, fine, نَحْنُ نُصَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِكَ. We do your tasbih. We glorify you. We recognize your perfection and how you're immaculate. We do it through your hamd, meaning that we recognize your perfection and we do it through the fact that you have given us the ability to recognize your perfection. We understand that. وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ, right? And we understand the holiness, the qudsiyah that you have too. We get that. And then what does Allah respond? قَالَ إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. I know what you don't know. And that's pretty much where angels are like, I got it. Get it. There's something that we don't understand. Angels are simple. They're programmed with information, right? Very, very, very similar to AI, unfortunately, right? You program them, you give them information, and they just spit stuff out. It's input and output. So the input that they had, whatever they understood of humans, to whatever that is, like I said, it's a separate conversation, which we don't have time for. But whatever information they currently had was enough for them to make an analysis and a conclusion and a natija that, look, this creation does not seem suitable and fitting to be your khalifa, to be your representative. And they gave their reasons, right? Didn't just complain about it. They said, look, the reasons are they cause chaos, they spill blood, and on the opposite side, if the whole point of being your khalifa is to recognize your names, to manifest your qualities, well, we angels, we do that. We do tasbih, we do tahmeed, we do taqdees, we recognize you and glorify you. So if you're going to pick a khalifa, we're the better candidate. You know what they're saying? They're basically saying that nahnu khayr, right? We're better. The same exact thing Iblis said. There's no difference here. So what exactly is happening over here? Now, the issue over here, and this is where this idea of a shaitani type of thinking comes in as well too. This same behavior, this same pattern existed in the angels as well too. And the angels, you can describe them as pure nur, as pure light. Another way of describing them as well is pure aql, pure intellect. Again, I know I'm mentioning a lot of things that technically require their own lectures, but just take everything on face value now. Aql, I don't like the translation of it being intellect or being rational, but for now, let's use that. What the angels are doing, is it rational or irrational? The way that they're thinking, is that irrational or is it rational? It's rational. It makes complete sense that, hey, Allah, you want a representative, we recognize you, we understand you, we manifest your light. This thing that you are creating does not matter. It does not. It clearly goes against what you like. It's doing fasad. It causes chaos. It spills blood. You don't want that. We are in line with your irad and your will. Why would you do that? Now we jump to Iblis. Is Iblis being rational or irrational? He's doing the same thing. He's being rational. He's doing the same thing as the angels. He's saying, Allah, if you want to create somebody that's going to be your representative, shouldn't it be the best one possible? Right? That's rational thinking. Iblis, in his mind, is thinking, I've been here, like this creation that you've made is not even technically born yet. So that means zero ibadat in his book. He's done nothing. He's never recognized you. He has no knowledge of you whatsoever, no experience. Iblis, not me, Iblis, obviously, right? Iblis is saying that I've been here worshiping. And in his mind too, I'm here with the angels in the first place. There's a reason you elevated me and promoted me. Now put it in our modern day context. Let's say you're working, you've built up a relationship in your company, right? You've been promoted, you went up the ladder, you played that whole upward mobility, corporate, nonsense game, you're there. And then you're shooting for, that highest position that's there, that you've been looking for. Like, I think I'm gonna get that. Imagine if they say, look, I'm just going to bring some fresh kid out of college and stick him in that position instead. Your boss comes and tells you that position that you were gunning for so long, this kid who's never had any experience in the field, right, just finished college, I'm going to throw them in that position instead. Are you telling me we're not going to put up a fight? We're going to tell our boss, like, what are you doing? We've been pushing for this position. We have the qualifications. We have the knowledge. We have the experience. What is this random college kid doing? You can't do that. with all due respect to the college kids over here, right? But that's how a lot of senior, veteran people who are in the workforce, that's how they feel. It's a rational type of thinking. That same rationality that existed in the angels as well too. There's really no difference there. The assumptions that they're making is rational. It's logical, it's reasonable. But this is where the same response is coming to both of them. Allah tells the angels very straight up, look, I know things you don't know. And the angels are like, okay, obvious. We don't have information, we get it. All you had to do is tell us that there's information missing, and now we know that, okay, no problem, we get it. And then the rest of the story is Nabi Adam teaching them things that they didn't know. But again, that's a separate part of the story, but it's related. Iblis, maybe, and again, we can only hypothesize, maybe if he had been a bit more inquisitive, a bit more humble about it, he could have asked some questions and kind of figured it out. But instead, Abba, right, his arrogance, it took over. So no, this doesn't make any sense. So what is the sort of common thread over here? This idea of shaitani thinking is actually rational, logical thinking. And it might sound strange, we're like, aren't we told to be rational and logical and do tafakkur and contemplate and reflect? Well, yes, we are, sure. But what's talked about over here is a certain level that we now apply to the sharia, that we apply to the deen, that we apply to the irada of Allah. And this is what has been condemned in the Quran over and over and over again, in the riwayat as well, which I'll share in a minute. And it's so important that literally this is the first story. Chronologically speaking, this is the first time Allah is mentioning these mistakes. We're not talking about any pre-creation or anything like that. This is Allah saying, hey, angels made this mistake, Iblis made the mistake. Adam, again, we could continue on that Adam and Hawa basically made the same kind of mistake as well too, if you want to connect the same story here, right? They thought that, hey, this individual who's inviting us towards living into eternality and immortality, that sounds good, it sounds rational and reasonable. They fell for the same trick. But obviously, their difference for Adam and Hawa, alayhim salam, was that they did istighfar, they did tawbah, they recognized that Allah, we don't know what we did dhulm to ourselves, we went against you, and we shouldn't have done that. And then that's why, Allah says, that's why they become my Khalifa, and not something like Iblis, whose arrogance takes him over. But let me explain a bit more, if you can recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So this exact concept has been mentioned in a riwayat in many different places, in interactions that have happened with the Ahlul Bayt. So this happened between Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam and certain individuals that existed at his time. Some say it happened with Abu Hanifa, some say it happened with other scholars. So whenever the Ahlul Bayt, or especially Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, who during his time is obviously training many ulama, right, many students. It's not just quote-unquote Shias. There's Sunnis obviously as well who are studying under him, because there's no quote-unquote Sunni Shia divide as far as we understand it today. It doesn't really exist then. It's just Muslims studying from a Muslim scholar in their mind. Obviously the Shias have a different regard for Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, but everybody else who are going to be the majority, that's not the framework that they have. So they're learning methodology. They're learning how to think. How do we understand what Allah wants? How do we derive what Allah wants? And for the majority of Muslims at that time, who are not following the Ahlul Bayt, for them, what is it? Well, if Allah doesn't tell me directly, if I can't find it in the Quran, if I don't have a hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, what do? I can look at other things that are there and I'll make a conclusion. I'll take two things and I'll compare them. And if they seem similar enough, then that sounds good. I'll make an analogy. Or as we refer to it in Arabic as what? Qiyas, right? It's qiyas. So in this interaction that some report say took place between the sixth Imam Abu Hanifa, I'm skipping, it's a longer story, but I'm getting to where this part is mentioned, right? So Abu Hanifa, according to this version of the riwayah, was talking with Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and he spoke to him. He says to Ya Abu Hanifa, Ballaghani innaka taqis. He says, tell me, do you perform qiyas? Meaning, are you taking different ideas, comparing them, making analogies, and passing fatwas and making conclusions based on this? And he says, Na'am, yeah, that's what I do. And what does he respond to him? قال لا تقس. Do not do qiyas. فإن أول من قاس Iblis. Do not do qiyas, because the first one who did qiyas is Iblis. This type of rationalizing that you're doing, of logically applying things, which is what we do in the world all the time too. And we constantly do it with the deen and with the religion. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is telling this great scholar of the time, don't do this. This is what Iblis had done. حين قال, when he said, خلقتني من نار وخلقته من طين. You created me from fire, and you created him from this dirt and this clay. Imam Sadiq is mentioning that this story was, this problem already happened. Iblis got tripped up. Don't you get tripped up too. Don't do this. This is not what you should be doing. فَقَاسَ مَا بَيْنَ النَّارِ وَالطِّينِ. He did this qiyas between nar and teen, between fire and clay, or fire and dirt. وَلَوْ قَاسَ نُورِيَّةَ آدَمْ وَنُورِيَّةَ النَّارِ عَرَفَ فَضْلَ مَا بَيْنَ نُورِيَّةٍ. If he had only compared the light, the nuriyat that was in Adam with the nuriyah of fire, then he would have actually seen the difference. What's interesting is that Imam Sadiq, although he condemns qiyas first, he says, you know what? Technically, if he had done the right qiyas, it would have been okay. So what is we actually taking away from over here too, right? He's saying that, look, the problem is what? The problem is that qiyas doesn't work as Allah had told the angels, is because inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun. Because there are always variables that are outside of our purview, outside of our knowledge, outside of our jurisdiction, that we will never have access to. And as long as we don't have those variables, our analogies, our qiyas will always be incomplete. There's always going to be some portion of some piece of the puzzle that we're missing. So the qiyas will never work. It'll never work, and it'll always be incomplete. وَالصَّفَاء أَحَدَهُمَا, Imam ends here the hadith, عَلَى الْآخِرِ, right? Then he would have seen the full of the excellence of the two lights over the other ones, right? Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The same thing has, appeared in many other riwayat. Just out of consideration for time, I'll skip the other riwayat because hopefully the point was understood. But just to give examples of how sometimes you and we end up doing this in the modern day. Over time, what has happened, societies used to believe that, it was whatever is above us, right? Divine beings, they are the ones who are in charge of us. And we just let them call the shots, that's it. Then it moved on from there. And then around the Renaissance and a little bit after that, they decided, especially what came out of Europe, was that, forget this God stuff, forget this religious stuff, forget all this metaphysical stuff. You know what takes priority? You know what has superiority? It's this, it's the mind, it's the aql, it's logic, it's rationality, it's reasoning, right? That's where you get all this sort of Descartes and Kant and Locke and all these famous European philosophers. All they're arguing for is that, look, we'll figure it out on our own. Okay, God is there and we believe in God kind of, but let's figure out stuff for ourselves over here. Cut out the church, cut out religion, we'll do this stuff on our own. And then it got worse and worse as time progressed. Now, we should understand how problematic that is, but unfortunately, this same false and faulty logic and thinking, a lot of us have adapted it too. This happens in many different regards. I'll give a very clear example, which happens, without fault every single year, and it only seems to happen in the month of Ramadan, right before Ramadan and towards the end of Ramadan. When that mal'oon moon comes out, right before it, what happens? Everybody starts arguing once again about the moon sighting stuff. Moon wars begin, optical aid and NASA calculations and all this. See, it happens every single time. People are blaming the maraji', they're blaming ulama, they're blaming these councils. Nobody wants to take responsibility that Allah made it incredibly simple. Walk outside, look up. Do you see it? Yes or no? That's it, you're done. Either yes or no, and then you have your wadif on your duty. But no, we had to complicate it and add all this technology and get on WhatsApp and waiting at 3, 4 a.m. for messages and newsletters and all this stuff. We have made it more difficult. Don't say that technology has made it easier. Technology has worsened this. This same issue did not exist for those of us who, I can't reveal my age, right? I'm a gentleman. But those of us who are older, we know this problem didn't exist when we were kids. It doesn't exist in other societies. They don't argue and wait till 3, 4 a.m. for messages to go out. They don't wait for that stuff. You go out, you look, and you're done. It's that simple. And maybe if your marja allows, binoculars, telescope, fine. And you use a telescope or binoculars, right? Okay, that's it, it's done. We weren't sitting there arguing about all of this. And again, this is where the qiyas part comes in. I've sat down with many individuals who are given the adjective of educated. It sounds like such a nice word, but to be honest, I hate that word now, right? What does it mean to be educated? I don't know. Because I went to a university, to a school, because I studied, I passed exams, and now I'm educated? No, I don't think that's a good way to use the word, right? You went to school, you passed exams. No, that's it. It doesn't mean that a person is intellectual, they're rational, that they know how to think, that they're open-minded. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that you went to school, you paid some money, maybe you got a scholarship, and then you passed some tests. That's it. That's it. Doesn't mean you're actually intellectually capable of understanding things at a higher level. So what do so-called educated people constantly say to me? Say, hold on a second. For salah time, we can use apps, can't we? Yes, we can. We're using calculations, aren't we? We're not sitting there putting sticks in the ground as they used to do and waiting for the amount of shade and all this other stuff. We don't do that. They used to do that. We don't do that anymore. So if we could use calculations for salah time, why don't we use it for moon time, for the moon sighting? I said, oh, wala man qas Iblis. Like, yeah, there he is. He's back. Same type of thinking. I said, look, this is not how ijtihad is done. This is not how it works. You don't just take two completely different issues and try to bring them together like that. That's not how it works. Or another example, right? Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. You know, when we were commemorating the death anniversary of Sayyidah Khadija alayhi salam, we mentioned how people have this issue with hijab and the analogies and the comparisons that they make too. Right? So people obviously love to use that as a source and a template for qiyas. They say, look, back then you had a society that had slaves and non-slaves. You had a society where people had to go relieve themselves out in the open many times. You had a society where there was rampant inappropriate behavior. But now we don't have things like that anymore. So since that's gone, then hijab, we can get rid of it too. Right? We don't have slavery like it existed back then. We don't have these, people not using, going out in the middle of the desert, relieving and doing their business. These issues don't exist. So I think, and I believe that was the reason for hijab. So I'm going to apply it to today and say, that's it. Thank you, Allah, for 1400 years ago. But let's cut out hijab now. We're done with it. The reason for the rule is gone, so we can get rid of it. The famous thing, I've heard many people, university, educated, who have sat down and debated this point with me and talked about stuff like this. Even some so-called people who have gone to the hawza as well have tried to argue points like this, right? And how much time and how well they said it in the hawza, that's obviously a debate. But khair. What is it? It's qiyas. Saying, hold on, who told you that was the reason? Did Allah say somewhere in the Quran or somewhere in the riwayah that these are the specific reasons that is there for protection of this and protection of that? And to protect them from going to, okay, maybe it's mentioned that this was a reason. Does it say it's the only reason? Is it possible at the very least that there's some reason beyond that you don't understand that we don't know? And as we mentioned right a few weeks ago, at the very least, there is one reason that still a physical, maddi thing is not going to offer a solution for it, which is what? That we had argued and we had mentioned that both schools of thought agree that when a woman is praying by herself, does she have to observe hijab or not? She does, right? She has to observe hijab. Does that have anything to do with now physical protection or onlookers? No, there's no issue over there. She can sit in a locked room, in a vault, it doesn't matter. But for salah, she still has to observe hijab, right? What's interesting is those sometimes, sisters who don't, let's say, normally practice hijab outside, they still will do it for salah, which is a good thing, obviously, that they're doing it for that. That's good, right? But if that is known to be wajib and that has to be done, then all these reasons about slaves and physical protection and to protect them from the onlookers of disgusting, vile men, okay, then all that reason's gone now. Why do they need to be protected from the sights of Allah? Na'udhu billah. So all of that qiyas goes down the drain. Why? Because you weren't looking at every single variable. So this happens more often than not when we're trying to make so-called conclusions about the Sharia, about Islamic theology, of Islamic philosophy. What are we doing? We're taking whatever variables that you and I know, just like the angels did, just like Iblis did. I've got information, and we should be honest enough to say it's not all information, but we think that it's enough. What I have is enough, and I'm going to make a conclusion, and I will argue, and I'll debate, and if you don't agree with me, then you're backwards. You're backwards thinking. You're too conservative, you're too traditional, you're too liberal, you're too progressive, whatever, ad hominem attacks we want to make, whatever pigeonholing we want to do. That's what ends up happening. What is this all? This is all no different than the mistake of the angels, which they corrected, right? And the way that they can be, and the mistake of Iblis that he never corrected. So when we were talking about this idea of multiplicity, of moving away from Tawheed, Tawheedi thinking, as compared to Shaitani or Takfiri thinking is what? It's when somebody thinks that the independent multiple things that they see in reality are enough for them to determine what is actually real and what's not. To determine the nature of this reality. I know what Allah wants. I know what His irada is. I know what is good for this world, what's bad for this world. I can figure that stuff out. I don't need anybody else. I don't need God to tell me. I don't need the Quran to tell me. I don't need the Ahlul Bayt to tell me. I don't need some ulama. I don't need any of these things. I've got an aql, I have an intellect, I can figure this stuff out on my own. This is just pure Iblisi, shaitani thinking. It's that faulty logic that he got caught with, that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was telling him, Abu Hanifa and others, saying, do not do this, because this is what's going to get you in trouble. And we see, to this day, we are still engaging in this over and over and over again. Doesn't matter what school of thought, Shias do it themselves too, constantly. Whether it comes with fiqh, whether it comes with comparison in history, all these things. Comparing, let's say, the history of Imam Hussein alayhi salam with the history of other imams. You don't have the right to compare other imams. That's not the way it works. They each dealt with a different situation, different time, different variables, different circumstances. You can't say that, no, every day is Ashura, every land is Karbala. I know that people love to say that stuff, but no, that's not how it works. We can't just take these nice, cool, one-liners or two-liners and apply it to every single situation. Life is a lot more complicated than that. There's a reason why Imam Hassan alayhi salam signs a treaty out of wisdom, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam, after being pushed over and over and over again, after trying to avoid war, is forced into it. Not that he was diving into revolution. It's a false narrative that's there. He tried his best to run as much as possible to avoid it, and then when forced to, he says, now we have to go, because that's it, but we won't even fire the first arrow. We let them fire the first arrow. So a lot of our understanding of even stories which we have heard over and over again, even there, these details matter, because our understanding of those narratives are also a bit deficient as well. So let's inshallah be careful of applying this sort of qiyas and this faulty logic in applying it to the deen of Islam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. It was this same faulty shaitani logic and thinking which leads us, unfortunately, to a night like this, where we commemorate the Shahada of Amir al-Mu'mineen. If only the Muslims didn't apply their faulty logic after Ghadir, didn't apply their broken shaitani logic at Saqifa, didn't apply that same broken logic at the house of the Ahlul Bayt when they attacked it and set it on fire. If only, if only, if only. But unfortunately, أكثرهم لا يؤمنون أكثرهم لا يتفكرون. This is the nature, unfortunately, of even Muslims. Tonight, we remember this is the final night on this earth for Amir al-Mu'mineen. This is his final night of Qadr. This is his final night of the month of Ramadan. This is his final night with Hassan, Hussein, Zainab, and Kulthum. What a difficult night it is for Amir al-Mu'mineen, and what a difficult night it is for the lovers of Amir al-Mu'mineen to commemorate this tragedy. After he was struck, after Imam Hassan had tried his best to tie the wound, that wound which riwayat say was so deep and so big that it went from the top of the head of the Imam all the way down to his eyebrows. This is how big the gash was on his forehead, as blood was constantly dripping and they were trying to take care of it. After they take him out of the masjid, men, women, everybody who was there present is screaming, they're wailing, they're crying. Those who were not present, they're coming out of their house. Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein are carefully carrying their father back to their home. And all the while, as the people are following them, people are wailing and crying and screaming in the streets. Some riwayat say that when they came out, they say it's as if we are hearing people cry as the same way they cried when Rasulullah had passed away. Everybody was out wailing and screaming and crying for Amir al-Mu'mineen. And it's amazing that we are not commemorating this on the 19th when he was actually struck. They say that the amount of poison this Mal'un ibn Muljam had put in this sword, some historians report, they said this amount of poison that he put into this sword, that he dipped and struck on the head of Amir al-Mu'mineen, they said that this same amount of poison, they could have killed everybody in Kufa with this amount of poison. This is how much it was. But the strength, the quwwah, the taqah of Amir al-Mu'mineen was so much that even with this amount of poison, he was still able to last 2 more days after this. The Imams, his children, bring him back to the house. Up until this point, Imam Ali has been trying to console and calm down his sons. Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein have been crying. They're trying to carry their father, maybe stumbling along the way out of that grief and pain that they're feeling right now. You remember how when Imam felt the tears of Imam Hassan, he told them, "Giriye na kun, la tabki, don't cry for me. It's okay. Right? I am moving on to a better place now. You don't need to cry for me. Don't worry. This is nothing. This is the matters of life and death. This is something that has been promised to me." This is how Amir al-Mu'mineen was as he was dealing with Hassan and Hussein. And now when he comes home, when Hassan and Hussein rest Amir al-Mu'mineen in his place where he used to do his ibadah, they rest him down over there. Now when Zainab and Kulthum come and they see the status of their father, when they begin crying, up until this point Amir al-Mu'mineen has been consoling, he's been keeping his composure, but when any father sees their daughters crying like this, Amir al-Mu'mineen cannot contain himself anymore, and now he begins crying, "Ya Mawla, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, this is how you see the state of Zainab and Kulthum. If only you could have seen them on Ashura, if only you could have seen them in Karbala and what they were going through there, how much would you have cried in that station over there?" After he tries his best to contain himself in front of Zainab and Kulthum, he begins to recite his final wasiyah to them, telling his children, be careful, ittaqullah, be conscious, be aware of Allah at all times, everywhere, anywhere, all the time. Alaykum bil aitam. Remember the orphans, remember those who are underprivileged, who need our assistance and our help. He recites all of this stuff to them. And then the most heartbreaking part of his wasiyah, he says, after I pass here, then make sure that you perform my proper rites. Make sure you wash my body. Make sure you put my kafan on me. But when you go out to bury me, don't just go outside right away and bury me with the other Muslimin. Because of the hatred that some of these individuals have, if you go and bury me, they will come and desecrate my grave. So you will not be able to go and bury me in public. You will have to go and bury me in secret. And this had to be such a secret that the riwayat say that he did not even tell Hassan and Hussein where to go. He said, Baba, how will we know? Abata, how do we know where to bury you if you don't tell us? He says, after I pass, after you perform my other rites, angels will come. They will hold my body along with you, and they will lead the way, and they will show you where I have to be buried. So at night, the body is now being carried by Hassan and Hussein and a few other individuals. They are going to a secret location that they don't know. They say that angels had come down and led them to a certain area. When that area was finally shown to them and the angels stopped moving, then Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein say, this is where we must bury our father in secret. They begin digging this grave. As they go deeper and deeper, some riwayats say that they found something hard over there. They took this out and it looked as if, and it was marked as the shield of Nuh. And they say, according to some riwayat, that Nuh had buried his shield there because he said that I want my shield to be in the place where Mawla Ali is going to be buried as well. Nabi Nuh, they say, was crying for Amir al-Mu'mineen before his shahada as well. After now they have put their father in the grave. They have covered up the grave. Mu'mineen, mu'minat, you know normally how when we cover a body up, we still leave some of that dirt on top. We leave it raised so people can understand. But for Mawla Ali, the idea, the order that was given is that you have to make sure that no one recognizes this as a grave. Make sure that it's flat and even on the earth so that no one understands that I have been buried over here. So they have to go and even out the earth so that no one can be recognized. Imagine the pain that Hassan and Hussein, Kulthum and Zainab are going through. They've already lost their younger brother when he was in the womb. They've already lost Muhsin. They already saw their mother being attacked in the home. They've already seen and had to see that her mother had to go through all these difficulties with her broken rib. They said, our mother had to be buried in secret, and now we have to bury our father in secret as well too. If only they would see in the future at how their own shahadat would match like their fathers too. When Imam Hassan, his tabut, his body is being raised as well. When he wants to be buried next to Rasulullah, as he is coming out with his janazah, the arrows are shot at his body as well too, and he has to be taken back into his home. And when the body of Imam Hussein is lying there on the plains of Karbala, there is nobody there to bury him as well. ألا لعنة الله على قوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون رضا بقضائه وتسليما لأمره صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
Hussein. Brothers, you want to come up? You want to come up? Join me. Come up, please. Ya Hussein. Ali, Ali, Ya Ali. 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 Though I know on this world I can't rely, I never thought I'd see the day when Ali died. Though I know on this world I can't rely, I never thought I'd see the day when Ali died. Our protector and our chief, so strong and wise, shoulders so broad on the prayer rug paralyzed. Our protector and our chief, so strong and wise, shoulders so broad on the prayer rug paralyzed. From this world you finally have your freedom, and the prophet, you're on your way to meet him. You've been praying to be rid of this nation. Their betrayals have caused you frustration. Ali, Ali, Ya Ali. Ali, Ali, Ya Ali. Inshallah. Ali, Ali, Ya Ali. Ali, Ali, Ya Ali. On those nights, how distant you became. You wouldn't eat a thing. On your lips were God's holy names. On those nights, how distant you became. You wouldn't eat a thing. On your lips were God's holy names. How many days are left in the month of Ramadan? Hassan and Hussein said 17, I will soon be gone. You grabbed your beard, it was white, we were weeping. From this world of yours I will be leaving. A wretched man will stain my beard and head. I desire him to live, but he wants me dead. Ali, Ali, Ya Ali. Ali, Ali, Ya Ali. Ali, Ali, Ya Ali. Ali, Ali, Ya Ali. On that night, he acted differently. He went outside much, staring out into eternity. On that night, he acted differently. He went outside much, staring out into eternity. Up at the sky, he was looking and whispering, this is the night that he promised martyrdom to me. We knew that things were bad, for Hassan was crying. There is no grief, my son, in dying. In this world, oh Ali, you're a traveler. But still Zainab, she's crying because you're leaving her. Ali, Ali, Ya Ali. Ali, Ali, Ya Ali. Ali, Ali, Ya Ali. Ali, Ali, Ya Ali. Our biggest grief was that our father lonely died. He would have wished for Fatima to be there by his side. Our biggest grief was that our father lonely died. He would have wished for Fatima to be there by his side. to her grave 30 years ago. He carried her. He's lived an empty life since the day he buried her. To her grave 30 years ago. He carried her. He's lived an empty life since the day he buried her. You will meet the prophet's daughter so soon. The call to prayer, it means you have to go soon. Seeing you in this world was a gift God gave. And if I see you in that world, then I know I'm saved. Ali, Ali, ya Ali, Ali. Ali, Ali, ya Ali, 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 ya Ali. The final prayer and a meeting with Ali's Lord. Ibn Muljam came with the sharp and poisoned sword. He struck his head while bowing in prostration. Forever after that, justice left the Muslim nation. You met this world in a birth like no other, when the holy Kaaba opened for your mother. And you left this world in a state of worship, in prostration, prayer, fasting, and in hardship. Ali, Ali, ya Ali, 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 ya Ali, 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 ya Ali, 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 ya Ali. Turn it off? Sure.
الثالث على حب علي بأعلى أصواتكم. يا خويتي ايش قال الجراح، جرح الابو من شافه. يا خويتي ايش قال الجراح، جرح الابو من شافه. يا الماكو ظل بالدنيا يشبه ظلكم، كل الملايك رغبة سجدت لكم. والله اسمحوا لي لو ردت أسألكم، من راح أبونا الداوى جرح أشقلكم. ما بعد يرحم لضماد لو بي ألم يتشافى. يا أهل الشيم عن حالي تخبروني، يلي صفت نيتكم تصبروني. وانا الصبور العالمة تدروني، طفلة بعمر 5 سنة وفجعوني. طول العمر جرح الباب بالقلب ما يتلافى، جراحة من ضمده شقلكم عنه. من عنده أيس لو بعد بيظنه، خلونا اشوفه وخبر اخذ منه. راس ارده عصبه واستعد للونه، خل سلوتي تصير النوح لو بعد ما يتعافى. يلبش شدايد ما بيديت اعذارك، وبجالك مأمن يا حيدر جارك. هاليتامى تجمعت يم دارك، قصدت يا ابوها تنشد على اخبارك. انا كل كنت حامي هو هذا انصافه، يلتحد ظلك كل وقت لمتنا. كانت عباتك يا علي خيمتنا، كانت عباتك يا علي خيمتنا. لو رحت ما تسوى بعد دنيتنا، وخلافك المن يا علي ظلتنا. هذا الزمن الغدار حق اليتيم يخافه. يا علي وما تنسانا يغمرنا احساس، عند الحسن وحسين عند العباس. عند الحسن وحسين عند العباس، تارك وصيته علينا من بين الناس. من بعد راسك يظل سالم يا راس، كم حاقد وكم ملعون يطلب بثار اسلافه. لو إلك يحصل دوا الجراح، لو إلك يحصل دوا الجراح. نركض نجيبه ولك نفدي الأرواح، نركض نجيبه ولك نفدي الأرواح. بس لا يقول القدر والدكم راح، بس لا يقول القدر والدكم راح. يا حزن يا هم يا مصاب، يا حزن يا هم يا مصاب. يا علي مثلك هيهات يتجازى لو يتوافى. مظلوم ما تتكرر يا فاطمة الحزينة، مظلوم ما تتكرر يا فاطمة الحزينة. مظلوم ما تتكرر، مظلوم ما تتكرر، مظلوم ما تتكرر، مظلوم ما تتكرر، مظلوم ما تتكرر. وين اللي يعز المصطفى ويقول له ما تتكرر؟ وين اللي يعز المصطفى ويقول له ما تتكرر؟ وين اللي يعز المصطفى ويقول له ما تتكرر؟ تهدمت والله أركان الهدى، 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 تهدمت والله أركان الهدى. السلام عليك يا أبا الحسن ورحمة الله وبركاته.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
ثانيا لحب الحسن والحسين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بيبي الله يسلمك.
بخونا من ايدهم زهره شنو يا زهره يا علي 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 غم از حال و روزم بود منجلی بسوزد دلم در عزای ولی زنم ناله چو کودکان یتیم یا علی یا علی یا علی یا علی که ضربت رسیده به فرق علی یا علی یا علی فلک گرچه شد از غمش بیقرار خزان وجودش شده چون بهار به نام خداوند کعبه قسم علی غرق در خون شد رستگار یا علی یا علی یا علی یا علی زمانه نکرده به مولا وفا زمانه نکرده به مولا وفا که دیده به خود لحظه لحظه جفا که دیده به خود لحظه لحظه جفا علی فرق بشکسته در موج خون رود دیدن بزهه مصطفی علی یا علی یا علی یا علی یا علی یا علی به سوز و باه دل مستدر علی روز خان شد به چشم ترش مخور قصه ای یاسیون فرم تو دستت شکسته علی همسرش علی یا علی یا علی یا علی علی یا علی یا علی یا علی الا بزه پاک پیغمبری الا ای که تو هستی هی دری بدان جانم از دم ز تن شد برون که دیدم تو افتاده ای پشت در که دیدم تو افتاده ای پشت در علی یا علی یا علی یا علی علی یا علی یا علی یا علی علی یا علی یا علی یا علی اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إلهي عظم البلاء وبرى الخفاء وانكشف الغطاء وقطع الرجاء وزاقت الأرض ومنعت السماء وأنت المستعان وإليك المشتكى وإليك معبد في شدة والرخاء اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أولي الأمر الذين فرضت علينا طاعتهم وعرفتنا بذلك منزلتهم وفرج عنا بحقهم فرجا آجلا قريبا كلمح البصر أو أقرب يا محمد يا علي يا علي يا محمد اكفياني فانكما كافيان وانصراني فانكما ناصران يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان الغوث 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 أدركني 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 الساعة 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 الأجل 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 يا أرحم الراحمين بحق محمد وآل الطاهرين صلوات Inshallah, read the Fatah for all the Mu'minin wa Mu'minat passed away, also the brothers in the Gaza and also in the Lebanon. They all they inshallah read one Fatiha for all inshallah. And Yemen and us are also brave for whatever all of your Raftagan. The people they Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
أحسنتم خير عشان
محمد وآل محمد.
Okay, inshallah, we will have the Amal started. Brother Ibrahim, somebody to set up the screen. So inshallah, tonight we will continue the Amal of the first. We have the laptop or computer fixed, so alhamdulillah, we will display it. So the first thing you have to do, the 2 rakat salat, just like the 2 rakat after time, 7 times Surah Al-Hud, and then repeat that again, and then after that, Astaghfirullah, 7 times, and get ready to do this, and inshallah, follow up with the rest of that. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So give this to Sheikh. Yeah, we will give this to Sayyid, inshallah. Don't say Sheikh. I get PTSD. صلى على محمد وعلى آل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد.
Inshallah, brothers, we're going to start the Anwar. I don't know if you guys finished your second course, but please tonight don't forget one of our needs, the best needs are needs of God. So please make God for the situation to be resolved, and please really needs your help. And the rest of what we do in this night, halftime will be to make sure that this issue is resolved, inshallah. صلى على محمد وعلى آل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى
I'm okay. The one we did the other day, right? Same way we just did the, because everybody did the 70 themselves, and we did this 100 and this 100 together, and then the Quran part. Um, if there are other people, that'd be better. Yeah, the Quran I can do. It's not a big deal. Um, Uh, okay. It might be because I'm probably going to leave, yeah, right away. So if you, yeah. Do you have anybody else to recite these du'as though?
Yeah, we can recite the du'as later. Yeah, this du'as we can recite other people.
Okay, okay, yeah. Yeah, they're a little bit longer. So.
So after the Quran, maybe two du'as, the short ones.
I mean, yeah, if you have somebody to do them, that would be.
Sorry, the broadcast. They want us to broadcast.
Yeah, that's fine, that's fine. Yeah, yeah, pretty much same thing. Yeah, that's the same thing. Yeah, 'cause I'm probably going to leave after the Quran now, right?
Yeah.
So
After
if
the
you have
Quran,
somebody
also
else,
the dua, we can get
if you don't mind, yeah, yeah. Actually, you start with the next one, the 100 one. Yeah, yeah, we'll start with that. Yeah. Yeah, this is the 400 and then the 900, and then I'll do the Quran part. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
استغفر الله ربي واتوب اليه 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 استغفر الله ربي واتوب وأتوب إليه استغفر الله ربي 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 وأتوب إليه صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآله.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم لعن فتاة أمير المؤمنين 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 اللهم لعن فتاة اللهم لعن فتاة أمير المؤمنين لعن فتاة أمير المؤمنين اللهم 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 لعن كثرة 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 أمير المؤمنين يا علي صلوات
Okay, we're now do the Quran A'mal. So please get a Quran. Just open it up in front of you. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك بكتابك المنزل وفيه اسمك الأكبر وأسماؤك الحسنى وما يخاف ويرجى أن تجعلني من عتقائك من النار. Please offer your حاجات. Let's remember those around the world who are being oppressed, especially those in Palestine, those in Yemen. Let's recite Amma Yujib together 5 times. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Amma yujibu al-muddarra idha da'a wa yakshifu as-su. Amma yujibu al-muddarra idha da'a wa yakshifu as-su. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء. صلاة على محمد وعلى آله وصلى على محمد وعلى آله. You can now place the Quran on your head for the next part of the A'mal. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم بحق هذا القرآن وبحق من أرسلته به وبحق كل مؤمن مدحت فيه وبحقك عليهم فلا أحد أعرف بحقك منك. بك يا الله 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 بك يا الله. بمحمد 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 صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. بعلي 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 عليه الصلاة والسلام. بفاطمة 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 عليها الصلاة والسلام. بالحسن 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 عليه الصلاة والسلام. Remember tonight Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, Zainab and Kulthum become yatim today. بالحسين 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 عليه الصلاة والسلام. بعلي بن الحسين 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 عليه الصلاة والسلام بمحمد بن علي 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 عليه الصلاة والسلام بجعفر بن محمد 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 عليه الصلاة والسلام بموسى بن جعفر 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 عليه الصلاة والسلام يا أبا الحسن بعلي بن موسى 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 عليه الصلاة والسلام بمحمد بن علي 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 عليه الصلاة والسلام بعلي بن محمد 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 عليه الصلاة والسلام بالحسن بن علي 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 عليه الصلاة والسلام بالحجة 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 ابن الحسن عليه الصلاة والسلام عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. Let's recite dua faraj. We pray to Allah that we become the supporters and soldiers of the Imam, inshallah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. Please recite your hajat.
He needs to keep up with me. That's it. No, Hassan. I have to look that way.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أمسيت لك عبدا داخلا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أمسيت لك عبدا داخلا لا أملك لنفسي نفعا ولا ضرا ولا أصرف عنها سوء. أشهد بذلك على نفسي وأعترف لك بضعف قوتي وقلة حيلتي. فصل على محمد وآل محمد وانجز لي ما وعدتني وجميع المؤمنين والمؤمنات من المغفرة في هذه الليلة وأتمم علي ما أتيتني، فإني عبدك المسكين المستكين الضعيف الفقير المهين. اللهم لا تجعلني ناسيا لذكرك فيما أوليتني ولا غافلا لإحسانك فيما أعطيتني ولا آيسا من إجابتك وإن أبطأت عني في سراء أو ضراء أو شدة أو رخاء أو عافية أو بلاء أو بؤس أو نعمة. إنك سميع الدعاء فلا أحد أعرف بحقك منك. اللهم اجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم اجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر من أمر المحتوم فيما تفرق من الأمر الحكيم في ليلة القدر في القضاء الذي لا يرد ولا يبدل. أن تجعلني من حجاج بيتك الحرام المبرور حجهم المشكور سعيهم المغفور ذنوبهم المكفر عنهم سيئاتهم واجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر أن تطيل عمري وتوسع علي في رزقي. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم ارزقنا توفيق الطاعة وبعد المعصية وصدق النية وعرفان الحرمة، وأكرمنا بالهدى والاستقامة، وسدد ألسنتنا بالصواب والحكمة، واملأ قلوبنا بالعلم والمعرفة، وطهر بطوننا من الحرام والشبهة، واكفف أيدينا عن الظلم والسرقة، واغضض أبصارنا عن الفجور والخيانة، واسدد أسماعنا عن اللغو والغيبة، وتفضل على علمائنا بالزهد والنصيحة، وعلى المتعلمين بالجهد والرغبة، وعلى المستمعين بالاتباع والموعظة، وعلى مرضى المسلمين بالشفاء والراحة، وعلى موتاهم بالرأفة والرحمة، وعلى مشايخنا بالوقار والسكينة، وعلى الشباب بالإنابة والتوبة، وعلى النساء بالحياء والعفة، وعلى الأغنياء بالتواضع والسعة، وعلى الفقراء بالصبر والقناعة، وعلى الغزاة بالنصر والغلبة، وعلى الأسراء بالخلاص والراحة، وعلى الأمراء بالعدل والشفقة، وعلى الرعية بالإنصاف وحسن السيرة. وبارك للحجاج والزوار في الزاد والنفقة، واقضي ما أوجبت عليهم من الحج والعمرة بفضلك ورحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا ذا الذي كان قبل كل شيء ثم خلق كل شيء ثم يبقى ويفنى كل شيء، يا ذا الذي ليس كمثله شيء، ويا ذا الذي ليس في السماوات العلى ولا في الأرضين السفلى ولا فوقهن ولا تحتهن ولا بينهن إله يعبد غيره. لك الحمد حمدا لا يقوى على إحصائه إلا أنت. وصل على محمد وآل محمد صلاة لا يقوى على إحصائها إلا أنت. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا مولج الليل في النهار ومولج النهار في الليل، ومخرج الحي من الميت ومخرج الميت من الحي، يا رازق من يشاء بغير حساب. يا الله يا الله يا رحمن، يا الله يا الله يا رحيم، يا الله يا الله يا الله. لك الأسماء الحسنى والأمثال العليا والكبرياء والآلاء. أسألك أن تصلي على محمد وآل محمد، وأن تجعل اسمي في هذه الليلة في السعداء، وروحي مع الشهداء، وإحساني في عليين، وإساءتي مغفورة، وأن تهب لي يقينا تباشر به قلبي، وإيمانا يذهب الشك عني، وترضيني بما قسمت لي. وآتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار الحريق. وارزقني فيها ذكرك وشكرك والرغبة إليك والإنابة والتوفيق لما وفقت له ومحمد وآل محمد عليه وعليهم السلام. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واقسم لي حلما يسد عني باب الجهل وهدى تمن به علي من كل ضلالة وغنى تسد به عني باب كل فقر وقوة ترد بها عني كل ضعف وعزا تكرمني به عن كل ذل ورفعة ترفعني بها عن كل ضعف وأمنا ترد به عني كل خوف وعافية تسترني بها عن كل بلاء وعلما تفتح لي به كل يقين ويقينا تذهب به عني كل شك ودعاء تبسط لي به الإجابة في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة الساعة يا كريم يا الله وخوفا تنشر لي به كل رحمة وعصمة تحول بها بيني وبين الذنوب حتى أفلح بها عند المعصومين عندك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا إله إلا أنت مقلب القلوب والأبصار لا إله إلا أنت خالق الخلق بلا حاجة فيك إليهم لا إله إلا أنت مبدئ الخلق ولا ينقص من ملكك شيء لا إله إلا أنت باعث من في القبور لا إله إلا أنت مدبر الأمور لا إله إلا أنت ديانا وجبار الجبابرة لا إله إلا أنت مجري الماء في الصخرة الصماء لا إله إلا أنت مجري الماء في النبات لا إله إلا أنت مكون طعم الثمار لا إله إلا أنت محصي عدد القطر وما تحمله السحاب لا إله إلا أنت محصي عدد ما تجري به الرياح في الهواء لا إله إلا أنت محصي ما في البحار من رطب ويابس لا إله إلا أنت محصي ما يدب في ظلمات البحار وفي أطباق الثرى لا أسألك باسمك الذي سميت به نفسك أو استأثرت به على علم الغيب عندك وأسألك بكل اسم سماك به أحد من خلقك من نبي أو صديق أو شهيد أو أحد من ملائكتك وأسألك باسمك الذي إذا دعيت به أجبت وإذا سئلت به أعطيت وأسألك بحقك على محمد وأهل بيته صلواتك عليهم وبركاتك وبحقهم الذي أوجبته على نفسك وأنلتهم به فضلك أن تصلي على محمد عبدك ورسولك الداعي إليك بإذنك وسراجك الساطع بين عبادك في أرضك وسمائك وجعلته رحمة للعالمين نورا استضاء به المؤمنون فبشرنا بجزيل ثوابك وأنذرنا الأليم من عذابك أشهد أنه قد جاء بالحق من عند الحق وصدق المرسلين وأشهد أن الذين كذبوه ذائق العذاب الأليم أسألك يا الله يا الله يا الله يا رباه يا رباه يا رباه يا سيدي يا سيدي يا سيدي يا مولاي يا مولاي يا مولاي أسألك في هذه الغداة أن تصلي على محمد وآل محمد، وأن تجعلني من أوفر عبادك وسائليك نصيبا، وأن تمن علي بفكاك ركبتي من النار يا أرحم الراحمين. وأسألك بجميع ما سألتك وما لم أسألك من عظيم جلالك، ما لو علمته لسألتك به، أن تصلي على محمد وأهل بيته، وأن تأذن لفرجه فرج أوليائك وأصفيائك من خلقك، وبه تبيد الظالمين وتهلكهم. عجل ذلك يا رب العالمين، واعطني سؤلي يا ذا الجلال والإكرام في جميع ما سألتك لعاجل الدنيا وآجل الآخرة، يا من هو أقرب إلي من حبل الوريد. أكلني عثرتي وأكلني بقضاء حوائجي يا خالقي ويا رازقي ويا باعثي ويا محيي عظامي وهي رميم. صل على محمد وآل محمد واستجب لي دعائي يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. يا مدبر الأمور، يا باعث من في القبور، يا مجري البحور، يا ملين الحديد لداود، صل على محمد وآل محمد. اسألوا حاجاتكم.
Keep up with me. Oh, there's more. Huh?
Brothers and sisters, please, as I mentioned earlier, one of our brothers is in desperate need for your dua. Please don't forget him.
Ya Rabbi. Ya Allah, فرجهم يا الله. No.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إلهي عظم البلاء وبرح الخفاء وانكشف الغطاء وانقطع الرجاء وضاقت الأرض ومنعت السماء، وأنت المستعان وإليك المشتكى وعليك المعول في الشدة والرخاء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أولي الأمر الذين فرضت علينا طاعتهم وعرفتنا بذلك منزلتهم، ففرج عنا بحقهم فرجا عاجلا قريبا، كلمح البصر أو هو أقرب. يا محمد يا علي يا علي يا محمد اكفياني فإنكما كافيان وانصراني فإنكما ناصران يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان الغوث 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 أدركني 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 الساعة 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 العجل 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 يا أرحم الراحمين حق محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Sisters, we will have the second part after the short break. We will continue with the second part. We broke the version to three parts. We recited one third of it on the 19th. We will recite another third of it tonight, inshallah. And then we will also recite the few recommended surah that we supposed to recite tonight, inshallah. And the part two. So 5 minutes break, inshallah, we'll meet you back here. So this problem will be solved with a wireless keyboard. With the wireless keyboard. Correct. We had a wireless keyboard, didn't we? Oh no, we don't. This is the one that was
wireless keyboard, anything. Wireless keyboard,
wireless
cheaper,
keyboard.
more
Okay.
usable than a clicker.
Yeah. Just bring the wireless key.
I don't
And
have
then you
wireless.
push this back there.
Yes,
I'll go get one.
You can't get both.
I'm sure we can figure out how.
Oh, this is being broadcast.
We're gonna do that. Just
Him and he will do one third of the version.
so
Hey, that's okay. You want to turn this off?
no,
Oh, you started
just put it on
already?
the back.
Okay.
It's gonna start charging. It's gonna cut off.
Okay, we don't need to broadcast.
Okay.
He's trying to do.
You already cut the.
Why can't you do
Cut the.
Cut off.
in your settings?
Broadcast. Okay.
I look.
Did you try that?
Yeah, let's cut it.